a home. You know, another dynamic as far as interest rates, it looks positive for us as you go back and look at economic cycles. And when you had times of rough water in the economy with recessions and all, you know, that has always corresponded with a decline in interest rates. And so stay tuned. But here we are with rates in the high fives, and historically, years back, nobody ever thought rates would ever get that low, ever. So, yeah, this is the skyrocketing rates are not a threat in 2023. Very, very interesting dynamics in a market that has stability. We talked at the sales meeting last week, just briefly, about the fact that, you know, we have no wave of foreclosures moving toward our 2023 market just because of the facts that the vast majority of homeowners out there have equity. They're not going to get foreclosed on if they happen to sell. And by the way, what causes people to sell? Oftentimes it's, I lost my job, I can't get a job, and I'm going to sell. Well, right now, employment is still very, very strong. So understanding market fundamentals gives you the ability to bring clarity and really hope to people that have a need to buy or sell and they're afraid. So you being the knowledge broker, talk about bringing something to the consumer that's worth paying a commission. It's your ability to bring them clarity as to their opportunity in this market because you have an understanding of market dynamics, fundamentals, facts that really, like Mike Taylor says, the truth will set you free. And I mean, that is just the reality right now. The truth as to what the market fundamentals are that will give somebody confidence to make a move is a big part of your value this year. And everybody knows this isn't the year that, the consumer is inclined to hire somebody that doesn't really know what they're doing. This is a year that they know they need a professional. They need guidance. They need to have success. They don't want to make a mistake. And here's our opportunity to grow at a time when so many agents, they literally don't know what to sell. Tell the buyer, the seller. They're afraid. They don't have clarity on what's going on and why. But so every day, this is our opportunity to have an understanding. And I put in the reminder for the mastermind this morning, how do we find real leads in this market? Because in this market, particularly, you don't want to be chasing bad leads all over creation and then have people not buy or sell. And that's happening to so many people. So how do we find the real leads? How do we find the people that have to buy and have to sell? Anybody want to weigh in on that? Oh, I guess I could turn my video on here. I know most everybody's not on video, but it just for me, it just kind of helps connecting. But how do we find the real leads in this market?
Hi, Scott. Good morning. It's Carrie.
Carrie, good morning. How are you?
Fabulous. Thank you. I wanted to say for me, when I look for qualified leads, I usually go back into my CRM and I contact my past clients that have bought and sold with me in the past. That's sometimes where I find most of my qualified leads.
Okay. So, what does that look like? Let's say you're going to call 20 people in your sphere of influence today. How does that play out for you? How many real leads do you expect to find? And how do you know if it's a real lead or if it's just somebody with wishful thinking that they're going to steal a house because the market's going over a cliff, so I'm going to buy it for 50 cents on the dollar? Or how do you flush that out? How do you find out if this is a real lead or just somebody that's wishing for something that just isn't, the market's not going to give them?
Are you asking me that?
Sure.
Oh, okay. So for me, when I contact my CRM, it's typically starting off with a checking in. How are you doing? Kind of finding out where they're at. in regards to, whether looking to buy, sell, maybe they'll have a referral, but making and having that conversation and creating that opportunity, and just letting them know that I'm staying in front of them. So I feel like if I'm going to get a qualified, strong lead, it would typically be from my past clients or my referral base. So that's the reason that I really stay on top of my CRM, is to make sure that I'm in front of them, in the forefront of them every day, or at least a couple times a week, checking in on them. So for me, that's where I get most of my qualified leads right now.
Okay. And the sphere of people that already know you, like you, trust you, they're gonna, from the get-go, from the minute that conversation starts, tell you the truth because they already know you, like you, trust you. Unlike somebody you meet today that you didn't know previously, or even someone coming into your open house, you've got to build rapport first before they're opening up. But gang, there are people with real needs today in middle of January 2023 that need to buy, need to sell because change is happening in their lives, unexpected life events all the time, every single day. And there's our opportunity to find the real leads. Where else are we going to find a real lead besides your sphere of influence?
Something that I'm really going to try to focus on starting this year is going back to doing open houses. That has always been a great source for me. Before all this pandemic, I mean, we always did open houses, but houses were selling so fast, there was sometimes not even an opportunity. But I think open house is going to be crucial for me this year. That's where our storefront is. We don't really have like a store where people come in and shop. It's that open house is literally the store people come to look for something to buy. And most of the times it's not the house they want to buy when they come in, but these people are out there, spend their time, meaning they're pretty serious, than the ones that sometimes we cold call or something like that. That's something that I'm gonna really focus on this year.
I don't think there's a better picture of low-hanging fruit than an open house. So let's
Exactly.
say one today. It's rainy, it's cold. You go ahead and you go out there and you put signs out. Most agents aren't doing it. You put signs out, you set it up, you turn the lights on in the house, lights, camera, action. You've got the heater on. It's a nice environment. So when someone does walk in, it's kind of nice. It's a respite from the cold. Who is out looking at open houses on a rainy, cold January day? Oh, by the way, it's a holiday and it's Martin Luther King Day. Who is out looking at houses today?
People who are in need right now.
Yeah, people with an actual need. There is a real lead right there. There is a real, someone, very likely someone that's out there today. They're a real lead. They're a real lead because they have a need. I love that.
So
By the
Scott,
way, how many of your
Scott.
competition are going to be out there dealing with the wet and the cold and holding open house? Aren't most going to say, next weekend it's going to be nicer. I'm going to wait and do it next weekend.
Right. Hey, Scott, this is Mary, and I just wanted to piggyback on what Daniel was saying. I did open house on Christmas Eve, New Year's Eve, and then January 7th, which was like rain pouring down. And I feel like the leads that I got on those days are going to turn into sales at some point. We're looking, we're looking at properties. I've got 5 different sets of people that came in on those days, and I consider those real leads.
How many?
5.
Okay, you've got 5 real leads from open houses. I mean, this is just, Mary,
Well,
this
Well,
is
Scott, you know what? My mom always told me, Mom always said, if you can hold an open house on a holiday or the day before a holiday, do it.
okay. So you've held an open house. This is real time. Within the last few weeks, you've held open houses Christmas Eve,
Yep.
New Year's Eve,
Mhm.
and a day of total rain on January 7th, and you have 5 leads.
Yep. And I was the only signs out there, only person. That was it. No one else.
Well, God bless your mom. And those of you who don't know, Mary's mother, Connie Grant, went to heaven last year. We miss her dearly, but Mary and her mom, we all worked together at a prior company some years back, and Connie was one of the greats in this business, and so is Mary, having learned from one of the best with her mom. But I mean, Mary, it just doesn't get more obvious and more powerful than what you just shared. I mean, this is real time, gang. Having 5 real leads right now in this market in January 2023, because you happen to hold an open house on Christmas Eve, New Year's Eve, and a rainy day on January 7th. I mean, that is just is remarkable, but it's so predictable. I mean, I'm being reminded of this right now as you're sharing that. Incredible. I don't think there's anything better than open house. And by the way, inventory is low and it's not going to be going up. And so that's another great piece of the puzzle showing that we're going to have a stable market and we're not going to see prices go over a cliff. I love this. I love all the pieces of this puzzle. Mr. Taylor, you've been pretty quiet this morning, my friend. Jump in here.
I just love to listen.
Yeah.
You know, but what everybody's talking about is exactly right. Everybody's a prospect, and only those people who ultimately say they're in the market today or in the near future are potential customers. So the idea is always to take the prospect, and the prospect is everybody, and determine whether or not they have decided that they're going to make a lifestyle change. And if they have made that decision, then we know that we should be the ones that are best equipped to help them do that. And that's where we should concentrate. So every activity we do to put ourselves talking to prospects, whether it be calling your sphere, like Carrie said, whether it be open houses, and in that particular case, those are the strongest of all possible prospects because they're taking their time to go view real property. So they become the most important prospect to see if we can assist them in achieving their real estate needs. So that's what you have to keep in mind. Turn a prospect in and find the ones that are going to actually make a decision. Okay. Number 2 is that we talked about knowing your market. And I can't even tell you how important that is. And let me give you some ideas. I know for 2 decades in 5 different markets around me exactly how many sales have occurred each year, exactly what price points those sales occurred in, and exactly what interest rates that year they had. And from that, I'm able to have a conversation and tell people that while interest rates have risen, they're still not nearly at the peak years. Okay. And the number of sales that we had in 2022 were actually less than the number of sales when the interest rates were at the peak years, except for 3. I can have that conversation and it's real meaningful. And then I can say that we have a balance between supply and demand. And as long as we have that balance, then it's good for pricing for both the sellers and the buyers. It's good for everybody to have a balanced pricing. And the only thing that creates that balanced pricing is that supply demand ratio. So if you know and everything about a community and you know how it performs, and you can show people while it's a good time to sell and talk to them about why waiting may not be, because and why it's a good time to buy because the prices are stable because of the supply demand ratios, then guess what? You're more valuable to them as a real estate agent and a consultant than anybody else they're going to talk to. And if you're more valuable to them, the likelihood that they want to do business with you goes up exponentially. So it's really fundamental. So know your market. Know your market historically. Know that prices are driven by supply and demand ratios. And low interest rates and high interest rates will actually impact demand. That's what it impacts. But as long as you have that balance of supply and demand, then you're not going to have this downward pressure on pricing. And I don't care if the product's cans of beans on the shelf, or if it's real estate, or if it's cars in the used car parking.
It doesn't matter what it is.
It doesn't matter. But you just have to understand those fundamentals. I'm going to share a quick story about fundamentals and how important it is and how easy it is for people to understand them. Years ago, when my 25-year-old son was 9 years old, we were trick-or-treating with another dad and his son, who was also 9 years old. And the dad was a multimillionaire biotech guy and made a lot of money, but he had a house in Minnesota that had been on the market for 2 years and didn't sell. And so he was saying to me, he goes, Mike, I've had 3 different agents. I've had this house on the market. I said, but it hasn't sold. He says, what advice can you give me? And I said, well, his name was Todd. I turned to Todd and I said, Todd, I said, I'm going to let your son give you the advice. So I turned to this 9-year-old boy named James, and I said, James, I said, if you owned a company that manufactured cans of beans on a shelf, cans of beans, and your cans of beans were on the shelf next to 3 other companies whose cans of beans were also on the shelf, and your cans of beans was not selling, what would you do? And he said, I'd lower the price on my cans of beans to make it competitive. And I turned to Todd and I said, your son just answered your question. A 9-year-old boy understood the fundamentals of how to move a product. Okay, when his multimillionaire father was so smart that he lost the fundamentals. And you know what he did? He lowered his price and he sold his house.
That's a great story.
It's a true story. But guys, fundamentals are not just a name or not just a word. They're the key to success in everything we do in our life, whether it be selling real estate or selling cars or relationships or whatever we have. So if you understand those fundamentals, you become really, really valuable to everybody who's in a transition that involves real estate. So take the time to understand those fundamentals and use them in every conversation you have.
And thank God they're relatively simple. We
They are.
don't have to memorize a dissertation to help somebody find clarity in this market. You need some basic fundamentals, just a handful of them. And by the way, what's the biggest fear that a buyer is facing right now? What is their biggest fear in contemplating, should I buy or should I not buy? What's their biggest fear?
Is the price going to drop soon?
Their biggest fear is this market's going to go over a cliff. And
That's
I'm gonna
exactly
get
right.
stuck. And so it's so easy to give them some assurances with a few of these basic fundamentals. And yet, good news for you, most of your competition, most agents in the real estate space right now do not have the clarity. They're wondering, God, what if it is going over a cliff? Well, I mean, and so this is your opportunity to step in with certainty and clear, and it's based on facts. We're not telling anybody anything that, that's dubious or I mean, just some basic facts that will assure them that they can buy into this market. And by the way, back to the real leads. You know what the biggest indicator is that somebody has a real need, seller or buyer? Biggest indicator is they follow your leadership. When you provide the path for them, they follow it because buyers who buy. They're real buyers. Sellers who sell because they're real sellers. And I love that. I mean, I love that, that reality that they're looking for somebody to lead them. They're not digging in their heels the whole way. They have a need and they're saying, who will guide me? That's the beauty of finding a real lead, because you're not fighting with them and wrestling with them to accomplish their goal. They want to accomplish their goal. They just want to be led. And that this is this is our exciting opportunity, is they're out there. People who need to sell are out there. People who need to buy are out there for their own life reasons. And change is continuing to happen every day. Got a new job, whatever, being transferred, families growing, families shrinking, divorces are sad, but they're happening every day. Life is happening and people have needs. Why not you? Why not you be the one to meet them, get in front of them, hear their story, have some clarity as to how you can guide them and get them excited about the very real opportunity that exists for them in this market? Why not us? And that's a big part of why we start the week this way, because I need to be in the right place. And yes, it's a game. Everybody you talk to isn't going to be that real lead. That's life. But they are out there if we'll just follow this step. And we hit on two big ones this morning. Talk to your sphere. Find out what's going on. Get the flow of information coming our way. Dare to go be like Mary Grant and hold an open house when almost no one else is doing it. Mary, everybody in our industry would give anything to have 5 real leads right now, the middle of January 2023. And here you are having those 5 leads because you had the audacity to go hold an open house on Christmas Eve, New Year's Eve, and a rainy day a week ago. That just is so exciting to me. And it's a reminder that this is so predictable if we'll just go do something like that. Any other thoughts for the good of the order? But I tell you, I'm refocused after just hearing the reality of what's going on. Thoughts, comments, questions? What's your takeaway from our 26 minutes so far? Has this been helpful? Do you feel a renewed hope? Oh yeah, the real estate game is happening. Oh yeah, I need to get out of the news and get out of everybody else's story and go create my own story today.
Guys, let me tell you how important it is to understand your market. Okay. In Rancho Santa Fe for 21 years, they've averaged 275 sales a year. That is the average, up, down, the best year, the worst year, you name it. Last year, there were 233 recorded MLS sales against an average of 275. So it was down a little bit from the average. But you know what? The inventory was down also. So prices didn't go down. So just having that knowledge and just being able to talk about that gives you credibility with every single person you come into contact with. Know your marketplace. Know your market, okay? Because you will be more confident when you talk to them. If you know that the number of sales was only down to 20% from the 21-year average, okay, during what arguably is the fastest increase in interest rates in 70-year history. Okay,
yeah, by far,
so know your market. Okay, because that gives you so much credibility. So if you tell people, you know what, it's okay to sell right now, you're not going to leave money on the table from the future. Guess what people are going to do? They're going to make up their mind and they're going to get rid of all the noise and all the BS that they think. You know, rumors going to go out the window because you're armed with facts.
Yeah. I mean, think about the reality that there is a distinct window right now for a seller to sell at almost record prices. Not quite, it settled some last year. But that is a real opportunity for them, putting their house on the market where there isn't much in the way of inventory. That's going to help them. Rates have settled a little bit now, down into the upper 5s. That's going to help them. And they're going to sell today at a price that very likely is a little better than looking at the end of the year. That's a real opportunity for a seller. And you get to be the one to give them clarity on that, as opposed to waiting.
Yeah, and just remember that opportunity doesn't exist because you say it does. That opportunity exists. The opportunity exists because of the fundamentals and the numbers.
Yeah.
So it's not that we're prognosticators. What we are is we're AI people. We analyze the data and form our opinions and our advice based on that.
Yeah, sharing facts, not this is my idea. I think it's right. You should believe in me. And, look at a buyer today. Look at where they are, still very low inventory. Rates have settled down. They're not paying 7% for a mortgage. Now, if this trend continues into the new year and we have a supply crisis like I think we're going to have, and interest rates continue to settle a little bit, where's that buyer going to be if they wait? They could be very frustrated saying, I thought there was going to be more supply and now there's not. And, the market, the prices haven't gone down like I thought because of everything we're talking about as far as balance in the market. And that buyer says, geez, if I had had a better perspective at the beginning of the year, I would have just stepped in. I actually saw a house I liked. I chose not to move on it because I was thinking, oh, it's going to be so much better later. And now it's not. So on both sides of this dynamic, there are very real specific opportunities and reasons that someone can have confidence. And this, gang, is what's worth your commission. Your knowledge, your leadership, this is what's worth you earning a commission, helping somebody move forward with confidence and clarity. And I love it. I love it because most of the real estate practitioners out there are just not going to be in position to do this. This is our golden opportunity. We're going to continue to talk about these fundamentals and find the buyer and the seller that actually have a need. They're looking for you. They're looking for somebody to help them accomplish this goal. And I'm kind of preaching to the choir because you're on the call and a lot of people aren't, but good for you. And Mary, we're going to follow your journey and see how quickly some of these great leads you've created turn into deals. And we'll all stay focused on playing our own game today. But I know for all of us, it's actually choosing how you're going to talk to people and find those real leads because they're there. As sure as the sun's has come up today and it'll come up tomorrow, those leads are there today. There are people with real needs, and let's go find them. Is that it for the good of the order? Yep, 9:32. Thanks everybody for starting the week with us. As always, keep us in the loop with questions, comments, and your challenge and your takeaway right now after 30 minutes is, what's my specific plan today? How am I going to be talking to people to find those real leads that we know are there? All right. Thanks for starting the week with us. We'll talk soon. Bye, everybody.